friends, Abby here, and in the mountains of Virginia, we are in the dog days of summer. And I have found myself doing a lot of reflecting on the garden and the redesign that we implemented in 2026. When we started planning this garden, it wasn't because the old one wasn't right or wasn't producing or that I didn't enjoy it. We were growing a ton of flowers, but every season I found myself wishing the space worked a little better, and the way we actually garden needed there to be a little bit more productivity and a few less weeds with more room for annuals and organized planting. One of the biggest changes that I wanted to make was adding large raised beds. Part of that was practical. Like I said, we have a lot of weeds here, and while raised beds definitely aren't weed proof, they make them so much easier to manage. I also wanted better control over the soil, a little bit more protection from pests, and honestly, I was ready to stop bending over every time I wanted to pick a tomato or cut a handful of basil, and harvesting should feel more easy than it did. If I'm going to walk out here almost every day in the summer, I want the garden to invite me in, not feel like another chore. And let's just admit it, raised beds are beautiful. I want the garden to be productive, but I also want it to feel intentional and lovely and like a place I want to spend my time. As a girl who is affected by my surroundings and them being beautiful, it's just a priority to me. I understand that that may not be the case for everyone, but I don't think that those two things have to be in competition with each other. We don't have to choose between productivity and functionality and intentionality. I think that they can be one and the same. They can go together. You can focus on both. One thing that was really important to me in the design of my garden was making sure you couldn't take in the entire garden from one spot. If my garden was a house, I would want it to feel like an old colonial that was built 100 years ago that has nooks and crannies that are just waiting to be discovered and magic around every corner. I want your eye to keep moving. I wanted little moments of discovery, a path that curves just enough to make you wonder what's around the corner. I want flowers spilling into the walkway or draping over the raised beds. I want different heights and textures so that every direction feels a little bit different. Some of my favorite gardens are English cottage gardens that just feel so overflowing and soft. And I love that there are clear paths, which is also ideal for having children in the garden, but practical enough that I can quickly run out and snip a few things that I need for dinner or for a flower bouquet. And it just feels like everything is quick to access and quick to grab. And it brings that functionality in that I think I've been really hoping for. So as the season began in March, I knew that the first thing that we needed to do was to repair all of the things that were damaged from the previous year where I wasn't able to be in the garden as much as I wanted to because I was freshly postpartum. And I was redeeming a lot of the weeds, and then we had two smaller beds that just needed to be completely rebuilt. I use these corners from Gardener's Supply Company that are so easy to put your bed together. I was able to do it myself. You literally just unscrew them and they give you and screw fresh boards in. It allows the corner to keep its shape really easily, and honestly that just makes the whole process super simple. Anyone can build these. So I was able to shift the dirt to each side and then replace the boards. So these are fresh and new. I use untreated wood that I put a sealer on. I know everybody's got different opinions on that. Cedar is not the most cost effective, and we are a growing family who does focus on our budget, and so that was what we chose for ours. My wonderful in-laws gifted me these 2 raised beds. It was on my Christmas list last summer, both because I really enjoy building things with my father-in-law. We make a great team. He lets me draw things up and he basically creates a plan and makes them a reality. And so it became a full family project. And I absolutely love how they turned out. We kept the same shape because I wanted to continue this beautiful design that I had created, but this did allow me to bring in the functionality of the raised beds that I was wanting, and also not redeveloping an entire new layout for this garden. It made it easier because of the bones of the garden and the layout that I had originally put, that we basically were just making those in-ground beds raised beds. And in the future, we plan to add 2 more. I do know that I want to do them at a lower height. It's not because I don't love the height of these, I just want that variation. We've got the 2 at this height that are amazing. We also have a home that is on a slope, like our entire property is on a hillside, and we made these where the beds themselves are level. And so if you look at it from the side, they are stair-stepped down a little bit, and I appreciate that because, one, that's math and work and digging that I would not be able to do alone, and also I think that it just is so nice that something is level. And so when we build the second 2 beds, we will do it the same way, and they're just going to be a little bit lower. But I also think that this is a good example of waiting for the garden to be exactly what you want it to be. You know, this isn't the project that I can invest thousands of dollars in. And so these were gifted to me. We did the 2 this year. We will hopefully add 2 more next year because that's what makes sense financially for us to invest in this. And I think that that's okay. I hope that this is an example of where you could be encouraged that it doesn't have to be perfect year 1. This is actually this garden's 5th year now. No, not the 5th year. I think this is our 3rd year of this garden. Now I need to do math. Anyway, oh yes, the 3rd year because this was my 30th birthday gift. And so it's taken a lot of time to get it here, and we are constantly changing and working on it. And so this just was the next level for it, and I'm just so pleased with how they turned out. No matter how much we think through a project, there will always be things that we would potentially do a little bit different. And now what I'm about to say is not something that I would do different, but it is something I'm going to have to plan differently for next year. One of the biggest reasons I see that people don't do this shape of boxes that we did is that it's hard to access the middle. And they're totally right. It is pretty inconvenient to reach that. I have to be partially in the bed or reaching over plants to be able to access the middle. And I think when we did this, I wasn't unaware of that. I just said, oh, that's not going to be a problem. I'll just do it. I'll just climb in the bed, harvest the vegetables. I wanted to have my obelisks done, which I just didn't get to this year. And I would do climbing tomatoes or climbing plants like cucumbers and then train my tomatoes up them and then go in and harvest them. However, next year, I'm going to shift that because one thing that I am missing in my beds this year is having a little bit more interest vertically. And so whether it's planting sweet peas or clematis, I am going to be putting some vertical flowers on the obelisks next year because somewhere between now and then I will get the obelisks done. And I also think it's finally time to replace my rose arbor. This one hurts a little because I really do love how it looks, but the roses I originally planted here were inexpensive seed catalog roses. And even though that's fine, I honestly couldn't even tell you exactly what variety they are. And while they're beautiful when they're blooming, they are basically only blooming once. And they've become an absolute magnet for the spotted lanternflies, which if you're familiar with them, you know it is not exactly the garden visitor that you're hoping to attract. They are invasive here, and I definitely take advantage of the opportunity to do my civic duty when they show up. So instead, I would love to dedicate that space as such a focal point to a really special climbing rose, something that blooms beautifully and feels like it belongs in the garden. Right now I'm looking at a couple of David Austin climbing roses, including Claire Austin and Woolerton Old Hall. I think both of them or either of them would be such a beautiful addition. I think this garden is getting closer and closer every year to what I imagine for my end goal. A space that feels beautiful and inviting, but also practical enough that I actually want to spend my days here. And I cannot wait to see how it continues to grow.